Hey, Bruce, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. First off, any update on Lozon?
Yeah, he had maintenance day today, got hit with a puck yesterday, so we'll see where he's at tomorrow. Clifton and Tenorti both kind of skated in his spot, so got some options if he's not able to go.
Okay, and just anything jump out at you after reviewing the game that can be fixed as to how you get to the net a little better?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly went through some of our ozone sequences, Steve. We had some high tips that were good, where there was some rebounds. We certainly generated a couple of chances. Berge's shot that resulted in rebounds off net, we passed. It looked like he had an open net, but didn't go. It was in tight battling. So that's going to be a challenge with bigger D. We know that. So there was some pockets of good stuff, but not enough up and down the lineup to generate enough offense. And I thought the other part was our neutral zone attacks. When we did have some time, we didn't really challenge their D well enough. I thought there was opportunity. Taylor Hall certainly did, drew a couple penalties, got in behind them on a power play entry. So you need a little bit more of that with our guys that have pace to get, force their D to defend you. Those were two areas we looked at. Power play is versus pressure. If we can relieve it a little better by using our individual skill or better support or both, I think all those things will lead to some more opportunities.
Thank you.
Pluto.
Bruce, a matchup question. You don't have last change. You're not one to chase matchups anyway. So if it plays out tomorrow like it did last night, are you okay with that? The Bergeron and the McAvoy pairing primarily playing against Eller and then using Lozon and Miller against their top line.
Yeah, well, that'll depend on Losey. Like we do like bigger bodies against him if it's not going to be Grizz and Miller, or Grizz and Charlie. Sorry. So that's one we'll have to look at tomorrow. I think Kevin will do a good job against Ovechkin, play him hard. I think he got inside ice a little too often on us. We could keep him to the outside and cause some problems once he gets in there because he plays his offside, so he's on his forehand. So that's something we've looked at. If it's Carlo, he's long, should be able to deter that. So at the end of the day, they're going to dictate that, Fluto, but it may have to be Grizz and Charlie, which, with Manth on the other side is not ideal for Grizz. I think adding offense to the Bergeron line when they used Eller, it did suit Grizz a little better in terms of his matchup particularly, but we got to do what's best for the team. And if he has to play against bigger bodies, he's done it his whole career. That's what we'll do, I guess. But we're going to make that determination tomorrow once we get a better read on who's healthy and whoever it is, they know they got their hands full, right? That he can drive their offense when he gets going. Finished checks hard last night. We saw that Ovechkin, so just got to make sure you're prepared for that.
Kevin Dupont.
First, a leftover from last night. You may have addressed this, and I could have missed it. On Anderson knocking the net off the pins there. Any gripe with that?
I do. It won't go anywhere and didn't go anywhere because they never asked our opinion on anything, even if there was a potential opportunity to say, hey, the puck went in the net. They just kind of moved on. So the whistle obviously dictated that ended the play. Clearly they knocked it off. And then, Anderson helped it along, and it was looked like a good opportunity to score a goal, whether it was Berge shooting or when he dished it to Pasta. So that was unfortunate for us. Tough break in the game. Good, smart play by Anderson. I think I've seen goalies do that in the past. When they're in a tougher spot, or it looks like they're, the defenders in front of them are not, in a great position. And I've seen D knock it off and get called for a penalty. So I think Z was clever too. He pushed it just enough. Anderson did, and maybe it was all by accident. You never know. We'll never know. But it wasn't an opportunity lost for us, and unfortunate. But I thought the officials did a good job with the game for the most part. So sometimes they go your way, those calls. Sometimes they don't.
And other than that, you've got a decision to make on the back end because of Losey. But any other roster potential changes?
I don't see any up front. We're gonna stick with what we got, and make a few adjustments as we said. And as the series goes on, I think typically teams should get better, and I expect that to be the case for us. We're going to need to expect to beat this team, especially in their building. So, and Tuukka go back in nets. I thought there was some typical playoff goals, right? A little bit both ways. The only one Anderson let in barely crossed the line. It was the one that rattled around, kind of like their overtime goal. It was a deflection that, ends up crawling down Tuca and rolling in. So the other one, we broke a stick on a shot that resulted in good transition for them. So, Tuca will go back in and like I said, we'll hopefully get a little more out of every player to make the team just a bit better.
Thank you.
And Roach.
Hey, Bruce, along those lines, you mentioned the same lineup up front and everything. Is it more like you talked about last night, a mindset, a determination to get inside and to create more offense towards the net?
Yeah, and some of it is just your spacing in the offense as well. If you can pull them away from their net, they play a little man-to-man. That can work as well if the D get moving and are active and you're making good decisions with the puck. Then you'll get some slot chances, which we've scored a lot on them this year in those situations, right? So it's not all about bull rushing towards the net. There's a time and a place for that. You got to get there. But if you can also use your skill and speed, move pucks around, find their pockets of open space, then you're going to get some looks as well that way. So we just got to find a better balance when what's available to us, make the right decision. And then when it is a matter of getting to the net, make sure you're willing to get there and establish some good position and be in a position to find the puck and then take away the goaltender's eyes. I mean, I don't know who's going to play for them tomorrow night, but at the end of the day, if you make it tough on any goaltender to see the puck, they're going to have trouble controlling their rebounds, and that's what I think is going to happen for you offensively. So, yes, I guess to answer your question, we are going to encourage getting more inside, but we also want to make sure that we don't get away from, like I said, stretching their D away from the net, because now you got forwards down low, and I think that can work to our advantage as well.
Last one, Jimmy Murphy.
Hey, Coach, how are you?
Good.
Just wanted, with Marsh in last night, what you thought of his game, and he seemed to struggle at times. You think it's just one of those nights, or are you worried about him at all?
No, I don't worry about Brad too often unless there's a lingering issue. There's none of that I'm aware of in terms of an injury. Sorry. At the end of the day, he didn't have his best last night. He's still a factor in the game. Could tell early on that maybe he wasn't quite there. His legs, when he had that 2-on-1 early on, tried to get it over to Pasta. I think he had more time. Normally he'd attack more and force that D to commit, and then he'd make the play. So, right then it's sort of like, maybe just doesn't have the jump he needs. At the end of the day, I thought if you I don't know how it is to watch on TV, but there's a lot of bouncing pucks last night for both teams. So the ice wasn't terrific either. So you really had to work to, get up and down the ice. Now you got a heavy team. So hopefully tomorrow, a little bit of that's behind us, that first game sort of, get into it mentality, and, now let's get going. Because as I said, I think both teams had some pucks that were bouncing and weren't clean on situations they could have been in. And with Marsh, like I said, I'm not worried. He'll be better. He'll get that line going, and they should be fine.